So today I'm replacing the piston rings on my A35 Tomos, which has got a Airsal kit fitted to it. But first of all, a brief explanation of fitting piston rings. So before you fit piston rings to a piston, you've got to make sure that the gap between there and there is as per the manufacturer's recommendations. And that gap is important because that gap is across that pin there and that pin there, and that stops the rings from rotating when in use. And if the gap is too big, you get blow-by because the combustion gases can get past it. If it's too small, when they get warm, they can expand out and pinch seize the engine. If there's no gap whatsoever, it makes it difficult to get the piston in, and they can actually bulge out into the transfer ports and seize the engine completely. And by then, usually the actual piston ring is broken up and your barrel's toast. Okay then, so first of all, fit your ring into the top of the barrel, like so, and then push it in up to the second groove on your piston. Use the piston to do it because it makes sure it goes in nice and squarely, like so. The reason you go into the I use the second ring because this very top section of the barrel doesn't get any wear because the rings don't actually travel over it. And by pushing it in the depth of the actual second ring, you guarantee it's at a point where there's some wear being occurring. Then get some feeler gauges and measure the gap. You can't see the gap from here, can you? Okay, so I've zoomed in so you can see the actual gap. It's right there next to my fingernail. Now to measure it, I've got my feeler gauges out. The actual gap dimension is based on the diameter of the bore size, so this will vary. But handily, there is a table on the Moped Army website that allows you to cross-reference that. So an A3 barrel stop on is 38mm, and the ring gap is 0.152mm. I've got a 0.15mm feeler gauge, so I'm going to give that a go. Just run it down through the gap. Yeah, it goes through easily. I'm going to try a 0.18. Yeah, that goes through easy as well, so I already know now that that ring is no good. We go right the way up to a 0.23, and that goes through as well. So I know that ring is totally no good and no good to go back onto a piston. Okay, so we're back outside with the A35 engine with the Airsal kit on it. Now, as it's still fairly complete, I can't use the piston to push the ring into the barrel because I haven't got a spare piston. So what I've done is I've pushed the ring down so it sits on top of the piston, and then I've used the kickstart lever to push the piston back up the barrel to locate the ring where I need to measure it, and I've used my finger then just to push the piston out of the way. Now, it's a 44mm diameter bore, so the actual gap is slightly bigger than the 38mm, and it is 0.176mm. Closest gauge I got to that is 0.18mm. And it goes through okay with hardly any noticeable drag on it, which is a bit concerning because it's already a slightly too big feeler gauge to measure the gap. We go up to a 0.20mm. That also goes through okay. Now it's a bit worrying because those are brand new rings, so usually if the gap's too small on a brand new ring, you file it to make it slightly bigger, but if the gap's already too big, much bigger than spec, then it means your barrel is worn. I kind of suspected this. It's done 2,000 miles and there's a little bit of a lip at the top of it. You can feel it with your finger. And so fitting these new rings to the pistons isn't really going to, increase my performance that much. It really needs a new cylinder kit fitted to it. So for research purposes, I've actually stripped the barrel off the engine, and I just really want to see what the gap is on the existing rings to see what that is after 2,000 miles compared to the new rings. Okay, so I've taken the top ring off the piston, push it into the barrel, and then use the piston to push it down to the depth of the second ring, as before. And you can see from here, it's already got quite a big gap on it, so let's have a zoom in. Here we go. Put our feeler gauge, slight bit of drag on it. But unfortunately, that gap is way too big. .75mm, so that's 3/4 of a mil. Far too big. Okay, so my plan is this. As soon as I've got new piston rings and a new base gasket, is to essentially take the old piston ring off the piston, give it a clean up, get rid of the carbon from the ring grooves and give the crown a bit of a polish, reassemble it, and then do a compression test. And if it's improved, then I know that the rings was probably the cause of it. Now, I know it's not going to perform as well as a brand new kit because we've already identified some bore wear, but it's worth doing while it's all apart, and I've got all the parts to do it. Right, just going to quickly share with you a little trick that I've found. Is that if you put the piston onto the conrod and then try and put the barrel on it, it's really fiddly trying to get the ends of the piston rings to line up with the pins on the piston and then actually slide it all into place because it gets caught. If you actually just put the piston on first into the barrel, it's much easier. And then all you've got to do is put it down onto the conrod and then press the gudgeon pin in. Like so. It's not so bad with the roller bearings because it's fairly easy fit, but with the brass bushes on the A3 it's a bit trickier. And then just put the circlip in. Like so. Always put a rag down at the crankcase. Anything falls down there, that'll stop it. Now, because everything's already lined up and the piston's already in, you just gotta push it down, like so. No faffing about trying to use those eyes in the end of your fingertips that you haven't got. Okay, so we're all reassembled. I've got my Gunson's compression tester screwed into the spark plug hole. When you do a compression test on a two-stroke, I'll do it with the throttle wide open. Right, now I was getting beforehand 10 bar. Now I'm just getting under 11. So I'd say that is an improvement. Okay, let's start them up. Oh, there we go. I will need to give it a decent test ride to kind of bed those rings in, but keep the RPMs low for now because they are brand new. So if you're wondering what kind of tools I've been using today to do this job, it's mostly been this Parkside socket set. It's all 1/4" drive, it's got Allen keys, screwdriver bits, sockets, it goes from 4mm right up to 14. Ratchet handle, all the other bits and pieces, and I think it's £12 in Lidl. I've also been using these set of Parkside feeler gauges, they're about £4. Again, there's good range of sizes in there for measuring gaps. In the past, I used to use a kind of plethora of different tools, which I got out ready just in case. But I was actually able to do it all with that socket set. The only thing I didn't have was the spark plug socket, needle nose pliers, and a screwdriver. So yeah, that's a very handy set. I'll probably get another one. So with that, hope this has been useful. And please subscribe if you haven't already done so. It would be much appreciated. Helps boost the channel. And take care, and I'll see you all again soon.